Hi, my name is Ray Peachey. I'm the Substance Abuse Prevention Coordinator for the town of Westford, and I work out of the Health Department. And I'm here with one of our health agents, Rae Dick, and we're going to be discussing a little bit about septic systems and possibly housing.
Yes,
So,
thank
Ray.
you for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming. How did you start work with the Health Department? What got you into this?
So I fell into public health. I would say I've been with the health department 12 years now. I was interning with my bachelor's degree at UMass Lowell, and I was interning with the Massachusetts Health Officers Association. And so I happened to be doing a training, and someone came up to me and said, "Oh, well, Westford's looking for a health inspector." And I said, "Well, it's my senior year. I don't know if I should apply. I don't have a lot of experience. I'm just starting out." And long and short of it, I applied and got the position and been here ever since. So I absolutely love the job. Love the people that live here, the residents. I've built so many relationships and rapport with residents, a lot of business owners over the years, the school system, and of course the people that work in the town hall. Yeah, it's like a family.
I know, it's true.
But that's something I certainly love the most.
So
the people.
Right out of graduating from Lowell, then you came right into work, or were you working actually before you graduated?
I was working, but not as a health inspector.
Okay.
I was in the food business.
Okay.
And I was hired right out of school, which
nice
was
to get
really,
something right out of school.
Which is really great.
Yes.
But as I tell the interns that work here in the department, I took a chance. I went in with an attitude that I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to sell myself as enthusiastic, wanting to learn, happy to be molded and suck up as much information as I can. And if I don't get it, at least it's a great interview experience.
Oh, yeah.
So it worked out, and it's kind of been a love affair ever since.
Good. Now, why don't you tell us, what do you do as the health inspector? Not just what we're talking about today, but I know there's other things you do as well.
So I do quite a bit. My job is a lot of outside as well as a lot of paperwork indoors. I inspect children's camps, recreation for children. I inspect those. Beach testing, that takes about a couple hours once a week in the summer. From Memorial Day to Labor Day, we inspect close to 14 beaches.
Okay.
And I inspect hazardous materials, so I'm in a lot of businesses working with the owners and the facility managers on hazardous materials here in town. Housing inspections, so in Massachusetts, we inspect residential homes as well as multifamily homes. Mostly, and here in Westford, we receive housing complaints, a million different things, hoarding, bed bugs, things of that nature. I inspect animals, horses, piggeries, pools. So for pools, a lot of people say, "Oh, you go to private homes?" No. So I inspect hotels and condominium associations for pools.
All right.
Some food inspections here in town, and I review building permits, grants. It's a big list.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I
don't
know
know
that.
how far,
but right.
It's a big list.
Yes.
Keeps me busy.
Well, let's talk a little bit about soil testing.
So that's probably 60% of my position. Is I conduct soil testing here in town as well as septic installation inspections. So if you are going to be selling your home here in Westford, one thing that Massachusetts does require, the Title V inspections, is they require that you have someone come out and conduct an inspection of your septic system. They're called a system inspector, and they come out and they conduct what's called a Title V inspection of all of your septic components. And so what happens is your report will come into our office. I'll review your report. If it turns out it's in failure, what will happen is you'll have to hire what's called a civil engineer, and the engineer will set up some soil testing with me. We'll come out, we'll provide a couple of test pits, and percolation tests on site. So we'll be digging up a little bit of the property to figure out where we're going to put your new septic system. And that process from start to finish can take about 2 months. After the engineer leaves, they draw up what's called a proposed septic plan. It takes them a couple weeks to get that to the health department. We review that within 45 days. And then you can go ahead and have whoever you've hired, your system installer, to put your septic system in.
Okay.
And I'll come out and do inspections with the engineer during the process. And then if any homeowners have any questions, we're happy to answer those through inspections, through email, phone calls, things of that nature. After your septic system's been installed, the engineer will draw what's called an as-built plan, how it actually went in the ground.
Okay.
And they'll send that over to our office. And then we'll issue what's called a certificate of compliance. That's the piece of paper you're going to need when you go to sell your home.
Okay. So we were talking, let's say, the whole process from start to end could be like 2 months.
Yes.
So in the process, I mean, the person could actually put their home for sale? You know what I'm saying?
Yes, they can.
Knowing
Yep.
that, because the person buying it would be knowing that they're going to get a
Yeah, a lot
new
of different
system.
scenarios take place.
yeah.
You know, I would say probably the smartest scenario is to get that all out of the way before you put your house up on the market.
Okay.
Just because, you know, you're tearing up the lawn,
Yes.
excuse me, landscaping, things of that nature. You know, the people that are already in the process, you know, depending on your bank or your mortgage company, some require that you already
Yes,
have an
I see where
approved
you're coming
septic
from.
system.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it really depends, but I would say the smartest way is to have it all done before you decide to sell. It just
Okay.
makes it less hiccups for you and stress and worry
And it
about
looks better.
closing dates,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
So.
And
And we are providing here in Westford in January, on January 15th, we're providing a well seminar for anyone that has a well here in Westford
Okay.
that would like to, you know, is thinking about selling. And they have a well, what do I need to do? And also, geez, I'm not selling, but I do have a well, and I have a bunch of questions. When should I test? How often? And what should I test for?
okay, so if I'm selling my house and I have a well, I have to have it tested. Am I hearing that right?
If you have a well here in Westford, the recommendation from the Massachusetts Department of
Okay.
Environmental Protection, the Mass
Okay.
DEP, they recommend that you test your well once every 7 years. And it's usually the full gamut of contaminants, so anything from E. coli, coliform,
Okay.
arsenic. Here in Westford, we recommend that if you have a well, you should have it tested once a year for at least total coliform, E. coli, just to make sure nothing's infiltrated excuse me, your well casing, and that you're not drinking anything that's going to make you or your family sick.
Sick, yeah, definitely not. You know,
But,
definitely not of that.
But yeah, if you're selling here in Westford, Westford does have local regulations that they require your well is tested and attached to that Title V report for information only for the
Yep,
next guy
okay.
down the line, so they know this is what's in the water.
Okay.
In Westford, arsenic, radon, and uranium are the top 3 priority contaminants that we have concerns with. They're very popular in town due to the granite in the soils, things of that nature. Arsenic from pesticides from past apple orchards, things of that nature. So, you know, those are something that people want to know about when they're
Okay.
moving into a home.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I would think probably having that might be a help in selling it if, you know, you come up and it's all clean.
Absolutely,
well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're looking to purchase a home and those contaminants are in the water, you want to make sure that the seller is taking care of those, having those items remediated.
Most definitely.
Remediation systems can be very costly, in the thousands. So,
Okay.
and radon, a lot of people think that radon's in the water. Well, it's actually not in the water so much as it is when you're in the shower or you turn on the faucet. It's a gas that you're breathing in that's cancer causing over
Okay.
time, long term.
Okay. Yep.
So certainly something you want to have remediated.
Okay. But radon is, I mean, I have town water, but I still could have radon in my cellar or something. Yes,
You
no?
can.
Yes.
You can also,
Okay.
radon in the air is very different, but certainly you could have that in your basement. And new homes today, there's radon remediation that's installed in new homes today.
Yeah.
But if it's something that you have a concern with, there are radon kits that you can purchase at your local warehouse store. Your
And
Home
those are
Depot,
fine.
and those are okay.
Okay.
And you could certainly hire a company to come in and test for you, as well as come up with some solutions if they find it's over the limits.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
All right. So there was a question I wanted to ask, and I'm just
No problem.
through my mind. I can't remember. That's okay.
It's okay. It'll come back. It happens
it
to me
will.
all the time.
Yeah, I know. All right. When we know that you do housing inspections, now that doesn't mean you'd come to my house as a private owner of a house to inspect my house?
I would. So private residential homes do fall into the code. However, it is rare.
Yeah, yeah.
It's usually someone that's calling to say, I have a bad issue, or I think I have this kind of bug in my home, or I have a rodent problem. Excuse me, can you come out to my home and see what's going on? Which we're happy to do.
Okay.
However, if we go out and we find an issue with your home, we're going to order you as the owner to remediate it. So
Okay.
a lot of times it's just fielding those questions and helping people out and helping them find the resources for what they need. If it was a private home, generally though, it's usually a neighbor or someone's filed a complaint with their office because you've got a trash issue or there's a noise issue or something to that nature. Generally, I would say 85 to 90% of the housing complaints that come in are someone's renting a home, whether it's a single family
Yep,
home
yeah.
or an apartment in a multifamily complex. And it can be anything. You know, I could write a bestseller with some of the things we've seen over the years, but it could be anything from bed bugs, hoarding, you know, a lot of mold issues, those kind of things.
So you not only deal with the person, let's say an apartment, with
Yep.
the person in an apartment, you're also dealing with the owner of the apartment
Yes.
to try and get them to
yes.
remediate that
Correct,
situation.
correct. And what's very interesting, I find interesting about housing cases, is a lot of times it's not just the owner or the tenant. In a lot of cases here, you know, we have to involve the social worker. We work as a team here.
Okay.
So the building department, if there's a structural issue, I can go over there and I can talk to them. If there's a mental health issue, I can talk with the police department, the social worker here in town. If there's an elderly abuse issue, I can also work with the Cameron Senior Center. You know, so it's nice that there are a lot of different resources and we can all work together to animal control for
Yep.
different issues we've had. So
Yeah.
I think that's what's great about Westford. I live in a city.
Yeah.
So I think what's really great about a small community is that everyone's willing to pitch in to help everyone, and that there's, you know, the departments work well and
Yeah.
help each other out,
right,
and
exactly.
everyone's out for the best interest of the resident or the person in need.
Yeah. Can you give me an example of a housing that we've had?
Well, you know, we recently had a hoarding case. A woman, there was a call that came in the middle of the night to us on a weekend, and the woman couldn't stay in the home. There was an issue with her boiler, and there was a carbon issue.
Okay.
So she wasn't able, there was some structural issues, and she didn't have any place to go. So that can always be a challenge, because if there's no family involved or it's cold, where can we put this woman so that she's comfortable? Does she happen to have cats? Didn't want to leave her cats?
Yeah.
Do
yeah.
we have to find a hotel that accepts
Accept
cats? You know,
cats,
things
yes.
of that nature.
Yes, okay.
But in this particular issue, she had an animal, excuse me, an animal issue. So we needed to reach out to animal control and see if we can find some homes for some of the cats for the
Okay.
evening until.
Yep. Yep.
So those can be some challenges.
Yeah, I know. I can imagine that. Okay, now I'd like to that thought came back to me. If you're putting in a new system, how many times you actually go to that location before the system is finalized and you can?
Good question. So for a septic system installation, on average, there are 4 inspections. So for myself, there's what's called a bottom of a bed or bottom of excavation.
Okay.
So that's actually when they dig the hole and it looks like a giant swimming pool in your backyard,
Okay.
the big hole. And so we're going out there to make sure that all of the, as we call junk, or the first A and B soil layers are removed, and that they're going to bring out anything they're taking out anything that's contaminated
Okay.
soil, and they're going to bring in fresh, clean soil. A lot of people say, oh my goodness, how come you're taking all that dirt out? Now you're bringing in, I'm paying for this new dirt. But there's a reason. There are different soil profiles that are different,
Okay.
sand being the best. The water's going to percolate really well through the sand,
Okay.
so we have to bring in fresh. So I'll come back to, depends on what kind of septic system it is. There's a lot of different varieties of septic systems, what they call IA technologies, new technologies,
Right.
old systems,
Yeah.
designs. So depending on the system, the second inspection would be the new soil that's coming in. I want to
Okay.
make sure it's clean. I want to make sure where it's coming from. I want to see it. I want to see the paperwork before they actually put it in the hole.
So if I may,
Sure.
so let's say they're putting sand in. They're not going to the local beach and just picking that sand up.
No, there are specific locations here in the Commonwealth that they have to purchase that material from,
Okay.
and they'll let me know the company.
Yep.
In a lot of cases, the material that they're putting in, they need to have a bill of lading, a copy of the bill of lading for me to see, as well as a sieve analysis. Those
Okay.
companies where they're getting this soil, they have to be tested, and they have to meet the standards of the DEP.
Okay.
So another inspection is, which we try to line up together, is the stone. Some systems require stone to be put in, and so we make sure that's nice and clean. It's free of fines and silts. And generally the last inspection is what's called a final inspection, and that's where we're looking at the engineered plan that we've approved, and we're going through to make sure all the components are in, they're put in correctly, the right materials were used. Westford has a lot of specifics to what kind of materials can be actually installed.
And that material is by town then, or?
Every town is a little different. So the
Okay.
state has their own regulations
right.
that they have to adhere to. And then from town to town, you can have a lot of variations, which can be
Okay.
difficult for the installer, especially if they work in different towns in Massachusetts. But we are conservative here in Westford, so there are specific items.
Okay.
For instance, you have to use what's called Schedule 40 plastic piping. So we make sure that that's what they're using.
Okay.
And we conduct what's called a water test. So when you flush your toilet, the water and everything solids go into a septic tank,
Yep.
and all the solids sit at the bottom of the tank. And then the liquid floats in the tank, and it goes out into what's called a D box. It's a distribution box. And it's just a
Okay.
cement box that
Yeah.
all the pipes come in from your leach field. And so when that water comes from your tank, it's going to drop into the D box.
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to, the whole reason for the distribution box is so the liquid evenly distributes into your
Right.
leach field.
Okay.
So on that final inspection, we'll conduct a water test. We'll put some water in the D box to make sure it's evenly. So one line's not taking more than
Yes,
another.
right, right. Now, with the updated technology through the years, are the septic systems smaller, the leaching fields smaller, or are they still about the same as, 20 years ago or 30 years ago?
I would say, well, the size really doesn't matter with technology. It matters more in your soil, believe it or not.
Okay.
So the whole reason we go out and do soil testing in the beginning is to see what kind of soil is on your property. And depending on the soils, that helps you with this calculations that the DEP puts out for soil profiles. And depending on the kind of soil you have, it gives you a calculation. And the engineer can draw up how big your leach field's going to be on your property.
Okay.
The DEP gives 110 gallons per day per household.
Okay.
So for instance, a 4-bedroom home, it's 440 gallons per day.
Okay.
So they use those calculations to design. If you have what they call bad soil, or soil that's saturated with groundwater, you have high groundwater,
Okay.
then your field's going to be bigger. And you know, a lot of people, they see the hump. They
Yeah.
say, oh no, I don't want the hump in my yard, which
Yeah.
I can understand. That's because people have high groundwater,
Yeah.
and you have to be so many feet from the bottom of the septic to where groundwater is, between 4 and 5 feet.
Okay.
So if you already have high groundwater and you need that 4 or 5 feet, that's why you see
Okay.
the hill, the mini
Yeah.
hill as we
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah.
And every system too, I would just like to say that every system too requires, doesn't always require a vent. A vent helps
Okay,
air
yeah.
and oxygen get into the system. It's good for the bacteria in the system. So that's why you'll see a lot of people ask, why do they have the candy cane? I don't want a candy cane. Why?
Yeah,
You know,
right.
they don't want to have to look at it, and I can understand
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So they have a lot of new technologies today to hide that. Bird feeders and
Oh,
all kinds
wells
of things,
and,
all
mean,
kinds of things
yeah,
to hide
fake
that
wells,
out.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and one last thing though, I would say about septic is one thing that I've found over the years is that if you have a system put in, a new leach field, try not to plant any trees or bushes.
Right.
The root systems, I see that all the time, and I feel bad people don't know that, can suffocate your leach field.
Okay. I mean, they can grow right through the pipe, can't they?
Oh, I've seen them stuff it good.
Yeah.
Because they're looking for water, and so if there's any water in the pipes,
Yep.
yeah.
It's amazing they know. you
They have
know.
cracked plastic pipes, yeah,
Yeah.
and so.
What's an average leach field cost? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, so the average system can be anywhere between $11,000 to $20,000 on average.
Okay.
I've seen them go up to 50, depending on if they need a retaining wall or high
Okay.
groundwater, things of that nature.
Soil too, probably, right?
Absolutely, a lot of
Yeah.
variables.
Yes.
But in Massachusetts, there is a $6,000 tax credit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so if you're repairing a septic system and it's your primary address, there's a $6,000 tax credit over 4 years, $1,500
Okay.
a year. So
Anything helps.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely. All right, so you start out, the first thing you really do is find an engineer.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and in Westford, we work really hard to make sure we put up as much as we can on our website. So we do have lists of licensed installers, engineers, and
Okay.
Septic inspectors.
Okay.
For
And
that
they decide,
information.
because we can't recommend any.
We can't recommend anyone, but I always tell people, like anything else, you know, to get 3 bids. Get 3 bids, and at least a minimum of
Yeah,
it.
okay.
And think of things like, for instance, you might have not have been thinking of, but is landscaping included? Maybe you want your own landscaper to do it. Will that save you some money? You know, things of that nature.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. And so we've done septic, we've done some housing. What else? What other jobs that,
Well, it's interesting because no matter how long I've worked here, you might come in with a what I love about the job is you come in and you have a set plan. You think, I'm going to be working on this, I'm going hazmat, I'm going to this today, and then something pops up that you weren't expecting, which makes it very interesting. Or you think, and I'm sure you can agree, no matter how long you've been here, you think you've seen it all and you haven't.
oh yeah,
You know?
no, I know.
So that makes it kind of exciting, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you're not just, the same thing every day. Like you say, you come in and.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, one day I could be out soil testing. You know, everyone laughs when they see my desk because underneath my desk I have high heels for the meeting, I have boots for the soil, I have my ugly inspector shoes for the housing, because you don't want to contaminate, and so, you've got your hard hat for the sites, and, you've got your tie-back suits for the bed bug. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
so
yeah,
you have
yeah.
to have protection for all different things that we're exposed to asbestos
And weather. I mean,
weather.
if it
we
rains,
go out year round. So
if it rains, can you do septic
I do go out in the
inspections?
rain, and we do it year round in Westford. So I
Okay.
could be out there in the cold, and and there's things that like bears, or things
Yeah,
you
I
weren't
know.
expecting, or those crazy turkeys. Sometimes, you never know what you're going to come up against. So.
So what are some of the likes or the challenges of the job?
I would say the biggest like is the what I love about my job, again, is that it's unpredictable. You never
Yeah.
know what you're going to be coming up against. And the people. I've made a lot of great relationships with volunteers in town, business owners.
I know.
You know, we're in a lot of different, for food and hazmat, septic, you know, made some great relationships. The lawyer's office is here. Even with the grant writing I do, you know, we're working with different departments here in town, so.
And we
it's
do
the
get
people.
grants, I know that. I mean, and that definitely helps the department itself.
Yeah,
you know,
I think
for
it's
the trainings and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's the small town feel again that, you know, things from working with the farmers market. I mean, I was here when that first, you know, when Gloria first started, you know, it's just, you feel like you're a part of a lot of different programs here.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that's a
Exactly.
great thing too, is that with my position, it's not just I'm doing this, this, and this. We're constantly putting on new education programs. It's nice. It's nice.
Yeah, and I mean, anybody has any problems, they can just basically, they can call the department and, you know, we send you where you need to go. I mean, it's just,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know, I mean, it's just it. So, and challenges?
The biggest challenges are time. Time is the biggest challenge for me because there's so many things I'd like to do and new programs, more services, and it's just time. Or you want to update new regulations. And for instance, here in Massachusetts, Governor Baker had an order for all regulations to be updated here in the Commonwealth.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, a lot of our regulations, pools, camps, housing, have been updated or are being updated at this moment. So that's been a challenge. Is, you know, I think here at the health department for health inspectors, we're enforcing anywhere between 14 to 15 different codes at one time. So keeping up with all of them, you know, mercury, you know, things of that nature can be a challenge for sure.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you so much for having.
Well, and it's good for the people to know, you know, again, what we do, and you know, and I remember one thing. I hear once in a while that, you know, somebody comes in, you know, and you'll say, well, your septic system is made for 3, but I have 4. I bought this at 4, which they bought many years ago. So that could be a problem that, you know.
Right. One of the things I do is sign off on building permits. And the health department didn't sign off on building permits 20 years ago.
I know.
So, you know, back then a home might have been built for 4 or 5 bedrooms or 3, and they might have a septic system that's smaller. So,
they need to know that.
Yeah, we're always willing to help, though. They can always come to the
I
counter or
know.
call.
Yeah.
We'll help them through the process.
All right, good. Thank you again, Ray, for coming.
No problem. Thank you.
And,
it was a pleasure.
It is. It really is. I enjoy it. And this is another episode of Health Beat and how we work with the town. Thank you.